When I came out of university, one of the biggest fears that I had was essentially that I'm alone in this country called United Kingdom, England, whatever. And I'm gonna slip. I'm gonna slip into nothingness. I'm gonna slip into mediocrity. I'm not gonna pursue the things I've set myself out to pursue because there has always been a system, the traditional path of you finish high school, you go to university, and I always knew that I want to leave, and I always knew that I want to do filmmaking, and I always knew so many things about myself. Yet, for the first time, I am being outrageous, daring. I'm daring to explore beyond the things that I always considered my wants. And I'm trying out things that are different and new. And as much as the whole conversation of don't do 9 to 5, follow your dreams and passions, is interesting, it's not always sustainable. And to some extent, I believe I'm going to say brainwashed into thinking that the 9 to 5 pathway is evil. This is a little break for you guys to like this video if you're enjoying it so far. Thank you. 9 to 5 pathway is evil and it's gonna eat me alive. And that simply might not be the truth. I've been doing the work, even though I'm not employed yet, but I've been kind of just embracing the workflow and doing the thing. And the amount of structure it adds into my life is actually amazing. I feel like I finally have that separation between the creative process and, because still corporate stuff is still kind of creative, right? If you bring that to the table, and I feel like companies these days encourage innovation and trying out new things. So that's that. But yeah, essentially having that wall between this is my time where I get to sit down and make something versus this is all of the other times. Because I do think self-expression is consistent, but the act of creation doesn't have to be correlated with self-expression. I self-express in the way I dress, in the things that I choose to eat, in the people with whom I surround myself with, and in so many different ways that are truthful and authentic to me. Yet me making a painting or me making some crafts and arts type of thing, or me sewing something, that doesn't define me as a creative. That doesn't define my creativity, because those are pursuits of self-expression, but they do not define my self-expression as a whole. But yeah, essentially to say all of that, to come to a conclusion that I found structure and I found peace in separating myself within those two factors. And I think giving myself a space to work and earn money, and then have this other time where I get to feel creative and do all of the things that I also enjoy doing, is actually helping my sanity a lot. I started sleeping quite well. I'm now a lot more productive, and I now value, clarity over chaos, because a lot of times my creative process would thrive in chaos, and I enjoyed it for a bit, but I found that with structure I'm able to channel creative output that I could never reach when it was so chaotic in my brain. And the chaos inspired a lot of emotions and a lot of uneasiness, which I could also channel. But now I find that the work that I started producing, even though I'm not putting it out there, but for me, right, it became more purposeful, it became clearer. I've been working on identifying my why as an artist, and it's a long journey, but I think I'm getting closer. I've defined kind of 3 things that are the biggest parts of who I am and why I am the way that I am. And if you're finding this content relevant, make sure to follow me on Instagram and possibly TikTok, as those are 2 platforms where I yap a bit more. Thank you. 3 things were excellence, self-expression, and innovation. And the third one was authenticity. And I can elaborate on each one of them. Excellence, I think for the longest time in my life, I did not believe that I'm capable of great things. I always dreamed of them, but I was always self-sabotaging my process as I didn't want to dare to try to be excellent and great and amazing. And I was just made for the sake of making, which is fine, but I finally am coming around to why I want to do things and I want to be great at the things that I do. And this leads us to the second point, self-expression and innovation. So creativity, I already explained, is not end all be all. And for me, expressing myself has always been the main purpose and goal of my entire life. I've always craved being understood. And yeah, just sending my internal messaging across. And innovation, I'm a big believer in moving forward. I don't like the state of like being stationary and not making more of your life. I enjoy the state of discomfort. I enjoy the state of like being out there with the wolves. And that's like one of my drivers. And to be doing that, you constantly need to be innovating within the mindsets that you have, because I think those are the foundations that drive us to begin with. Authenticity, a lot is within that category. I think the main thought that I had when writing that down and formulating is it as authenticity. I hate dishonesty in life generally. I hate when I have to be not myself. I hate when I have to pretend, because I'm thankfully very good at it, which I don't know if is a good thing, but okay. But essentially, there hasn't been a single time when I haven't been authentic and left the situation feeling good. Every interaction ever and every like social media presence, whatever, right, is extremely vulnerable. And when you're putting yourself into that vulnerable state, even as like pretending to others, right? If it's not you, you're like making a play. You're already embarrassing yourself, but you're doing it in like this fake character, which a lot of times protects your mind, because you're like, well, it's not me, so if people don't like it doesn't matter. But in either case, like if something negative comes your way, like it gets into your head anyway. But why would you do all that? Why would you put yourself into that state without the reward of them being yourself? And then if someone does accept you, because people will always be hateful, but if somebody is positive about it, it is because they like you and not some version of yourself that you'd like others to like. Another thing is, I think the ability to do and make the decisions that you want to make and to have the resources and space to do the things that you want to do is one of the biggest blessings we as human beings could ever get. And I would never want to waste my privileges based on my background, based on the support and family that I have, on being someone that I'm not, because that's just stupid. And this is my whys. And yeah, it's been so refreshing to actually feel like I understand myself. And actually, the reason why it's been easier for me to get to these conclusions is, thank God for Simon Sinek. I'm reading the book, I'm almost finishing, Cold Start Was Why. And I think it genuinely is currently changing my life from interview answer preps to like genuinely like switching my mindset 180 degrees. I feel like I'm moving in a completely different direction now. And for the longest time, I have a sticky note on here which says, who are you? Because, and like, what is your purpose? What is your message? Right? And for the longest time, I was asking myself these questions.
Isabel Conklin's not excited to eat a cupcake? Who are you?
I would answer with what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And finally, I'm coming around to, why am I into these things? And I think finding the answer, which I've given you guys like the basic breakdown of the things that I have in my mind, but there's so much more to it. And it's been incredibly helpful to anybody who has heard about the book or would want to get into it. Highly recommending it. So yeah, essentially I'm just happy because I thought I'll be a bum once I'm out of uni, but I feel like I am being productive. I did take my time to kind of go through the waves and moves, and there's so much for me to do. You know, my place is a mess. I'd love to move out of here as well, and I'm just like hoping that I find people to roommate with. And my best friend left the country recently, which has been like an emotional hit as well. I've been dealing a lot with trying to figure out my my mind and my approach to friendships and romantic relationships and so many things. And I feel like this is truly a time of so much change in my life, and it feels so uncertain, and I it's difficult for me when I don't feel like I'm in control. I don't think we're ever in control of our life, but like when life is actively making you feel like everything could crash tomorrow, it's a bit emotionally exhausting. But I think I'm learning to deal with it by taking it one day at a time and not being judgmental of myself and giving myself the grace that I hashtag deserve. And yeah, I just thought it would be good. I finally understood why I wanted to YouTube as well. I've always wanted a community, and I think was striving away from stirring away from, remembering that and trying to replicate things that work for others, or try to experiment with aesthetics, etc., that weren't truthful to me. And I feel like I'm finally ready. Like, the whole reason I created YouTube channel was because I was lonely and I didn't have any friends, and I just wanted to feel like understood and heard and find a community. And quickly I abandoned that for the dreams of like being an influencer and being famous. And I just don't really care for those things. Like, they don't really inspire or motivate me. That's why I never continue when those are the goals that I have in mind. And so does the title of the video being like, let's be friends, guys. I would love to feel like I can be a comfort to someone, because in the times when I didn't have anyone, I would watch my favorite YouTubers and just feel good. And I think that's such an amazing thing and kind of relationship to have that helped me a lot. And I'd love to cultivate a similar thing. So yeah, this was my podcast. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure to follow me, like this video, and comment something if you feel like there's anything relevant you've heard in this video and you'd want to share your experience. Thank you very much, and have a good day, evening, night, morning.